Let's chat for a moment about negative self-talk. I know for a lot of women, negative self-talk has been a driver of success because it has literally whipped you into action and helped you to achieve and get things done and push through and deliver on time. But it has also been a barrier to your happiness. You will never be able to achieve a life that feels balanced when your internal self-talk makes you feel bad about yourself. The problem is for so many working moms, the idea of dropping the negative self-talk brings about fear of failure, fear of laziness, fear of complacency, fear of being held back. And so in today's episode, I want to debunk that idea that your success has ever been tied to negative self-talk. And I'm going to offer you 5 alternatives to help you be extremely successful and productive, but still make you feel pretty good. Are you ready? Let's get to it. Working moms, hello. I hope you had the most amazing weekend, that there was some fun, there was some rest, there was some good me time at some point this weekend. This has been a big, hot topic amongst my cohort, the ladies that are in the Ambitious and Balanced cohort that just started last week. And so I've been getting these messages all morning, which is why it's on my mind. And I just want to celebrate that these women are actually taking time for themselves, maybe for the first time in weeks, if not months, maybe even since their kids have been born. I'm getting these messages that are telling me things like, I took 2 hours for myself this weekend, all by myself, no kids. It was like the most luxurious thing I could have ever done. Or another woman was telling me about how she was reading books and she had picked up a book and made actual progress through a book this weekend and prioritized that instead of cleaning and organizing her house. And another woman was telling me about how she picked up an audiobook that she'd been wanting to listen to for a long time. Yes, and yes, I am celebrating what I know just feels like little things, but in the end, really learning to prioritize yourself and have time for yourself. It's such a huge part of being an ambitious and balanced working mom. And so I am celebrating these little wins, and I want to celebrate your little wins too. Is there maybe a little nook of time that you took for yourself this past weekend or over this past week? Is there something that you did just for you to really honor you and your time? If you did, I want you to take a moment, let yourself smile, literally give yourself a pat on the back, celebrate that you are in fact prioritizing something that matters most, and that is you. And if you are somebody that has not done that in weeks, if not months or years, if you have not been taking time to prioritize yourself and the idea of doing that feels so overwhelming, you have just absolutely no idea how you'd ever fit in time for just you, for a little bit of me time on a regular basis. If that's you, then I want you to know that Ambitious and Balanced is the perfect program for you. I am going to teach you step by step exactly what it takes to prioritize yourself, prioritize being connected to your family, prioritize your work and your work tasks, and prioritize not working, prioritize being off work. Those are the 4 essential priorities of that program. I'm going to teach you exactly how to hold to those priorities on a regular basis so that you take back control of your time and energy and be not just a successful working mom, but a happy one as well, a balanced one. So if that's you, know that the next cohort starts in May. I would love to talk to you. You can go to the website, that is RebeccaOlsonCoaching.com/ambitious and balanced, and then click on one of those buttons to get on the wait list to find out exactly when the next cohort opens. I'm going to be sending out information for that over the coming weeks and into the next month. So definitely be on the wait list. Okay. So the conversation we're going to have today actually came up in the Ambitious and Balanced cohort last week. And it's such a common conversation that I have with women when we start to really dig into what's required in order to create sustainable work-life balance and have the career that you really desire and be the engaged parent like I know you really want to be. What happens is when we really get into the nitty-gritty of what it's going to take to do that in a sustainable way, I find that many ambitious women actually resist the change. Because a huge part of creating a life that feels balanced is a shift in how you talk to yourself. You will never be able to experience a life of balance if your internal dialogue is skewed to the negative. right? Meaning you can't continue to think thoughts like, I'm not enough, I'm not doing enough, I should be doing more, I need to prove myself. People are disappointed in me. I'm not a good enough mom. I got to pull it together. I can do better than this. It doesn't matter how good you are at holding to your boundaries, sticking to your priorities, taking time for yourself to rest and have a little fun. If your internal dialogue makes you feel terrible about yourself, then you're never going to be able to achieve balance. It's the reality. And this is one of the things I think that really sets me apart from a lot of other coaches and influencers out there that talk about work-life balance is I'm not just addressing the behavior changes and the time management strategies and the habits that need to shift. I'm changing the internal voice inside of you. Because I know that a huge part in creating not just work life balance, but sustainable work life balance that feels repeatable in any and every situation, in every circumstance, in every job. I know that a huge part of being able to do that is developing a positive and compassionate and loving relationship with yourself. The problem that I see in a lot of women, that particularly ambitious women that come to work with me, is they feel like they have built their success in their life as a working mom. They built their success in their career on self criticism. It feels like their relentless drive, this internal voice that sort of acts like a whip and pushes them forward. So, today in this episode, I want to dive into this idea that self criticism has even been a mechanism of success for you. I want to actually debunk that theory altogether so that we can talk about what is required for you to actually shift the internal dialogue within you so you have both an internal experience of balance as well as an external one. Let me start by talking about how this works and why this even matters, right? I'm going to use one of my clients. She's a perfectionist. She always has this need to feel over prepared, and she always feels instead like she's under prepared for like absolutely everything, whether we're talking about a presentation she's going to give tomorrow, or an important meeting coming up, or an important conversation, or a client debrief. Her brain is always offering to her that she needs to be more prepared, that she hasn't prepared enough, right? And it sort of sounds like this in her head: you didn't get enough done today. You're not ready. There is more that you could have done. How dare you not prepare anymore? You're going to look like a fool if you don't prepare anymore, right? You should really be preparing more. You're going to have to sacrifice yourself in order to do that. You're not enough, right? Notice these thoughts, right? They're almost like a little devil sitting on your shoulder, pointing out all of the ways that you are failing, right? As a worker, as a mom, as a human. And the image that comes to mind for me, and I've already said it here, but it's like a whip, right? Literally like how a jockey uses a whip to get their horse to go faster, right? In this case, these thoughts for my client are sort of whipping her into action, in this case, into being more and more prepared. So imagine this. This is how it works, right? She gets to the end of her workday. She has a presentation tomorrow. Her brain starts to whip her, right? It starts to tell her, hey, you didn't get enough done today. You should have really gotten more done. You are not prepared enough. You're going to look like a fool tomorrow. People are going to know that you're not good at your job if you don't prepare anymore, right? Those are the thoughts that her brain offers to her in those moments. So what do you think she's going to do tonight? Do you think she's actually going to shut down and be present and available and engaged with her family? Of course not. She's likely going to log back on and do more work to prepare some more, one more time, go over that presentation or over those slides or over her notes, or, tweak it ever so slightly. Or if she doesn't do that, she's just going to ruminate about it, right? She's going to feel anxious. She's going to feel underprepared. She might not sleep as well, but she's going to wake up with that nervous, like flighty feeling inside of her body. Now, here's the thing. You might be thinking, yes, Rebecca, but what if she is in fact not prepared? Like, what if she isn't prepared enough? Maybe, in fact, she needs to be doing a little bit more. Here's the thing, regardless of if that's true or not, because there is no actual truth in that. Like, you just get to always objectively decide, or not objectively, subjectively decide if you've prepared enough, because there is no fact to that, right? It's just kind of a decision on if you've prepared enough or not. So whether that's true or not, you probably have never gotten to the end of your day and thought, you know what? I think I did enough today. I have prepared enough today. I'm going to nail it tomorrow. I don't think I need to prepare anymore. I've got this down, right? Your brain has probably never offered those types of thoughts to you. The problem is this sort of negative thinking, like this, I didn't do enough, I should have prepared more, I didn't prepare enough, those types of thoughts have actually worked. That's why they're a problem. They, in fact, have in the past pushed you to log back on, which is the very thing you probably don't want to be doing at the end of the day. But that line of thinking has gotten you to log back on, to prepare some more, to go over those slides one more time, to make little incremental tweaks here and there. So essentially, your brain has now equated negative thinking and negative self talk and sort of that whip as being a driver of success, right? So essentially, it's worked. Let me give you another example. This is from another one of my clients. She's a people pleaser, declared, right? Self declared. Is that even a phrase? Yeah. Self declared. She works in HR. She has a schedule that is always filled with meetings, like back to back to back meetings. It is really rare for her to have large chunks of her day that are not filled with meetings. She has, of course, like little pockets here and there, 15, 20, maybe even 30 minutes, but it's never enough to get her actual work done. And because of that, she ends up working late a lot, logging back on, having to work on the weekend to kind of get through her stuff, to get through her to-do list. So my client, when she started working with me, she came to me and she just said she accepts all meeting requests, meeting requests after meeting requests that comes in, because her brain in that moment offers to her, if you don't say yes, you're not going to be a good manager. They really need something from you. You're going to get out of touch if you don't accept that meeting. They're going to think that you're unreliable, that you're not a part of the team. They're going to think that you're not very good at your job. Like, they're going to be really disappointed and feel disconnected from you. Like, those are the thoughts that her brain was offering to her. Now, of course, none of them are objectively true, right? When that meeting request comes in and her brain kind of whips her by saying, you know what, you're not going to be a good manager if you say no, if you decline, right? Of course, if that's what her brain is offering to her, she's going to accept the meeting, which then simply reinforces the belief that what makes her a good manager and good at her job is always being available and saying yes to every meeting, right? Literally, that's what the connection is in her brain. And the result of that, of course, is that she has an overcrowded schedule with way too many meetings that are not really her priority. And because of that, she has an inability to get through her work during her workday, which causes her to overwork, right? See all this connection here? All of the dots? The negative thoughts that your brain offers to you have you feeling bad, have you feeling not good enough, feeling like a terrible employee, feeling not prepared enough. And you have simply responded to those thoughts by working more hours, working after your kids go to sleep, working on the weekends, and simply doing what it takes to get the job done. In other words, the negative self-talk has pushed you to achieve more and drive you to be successful. But it hasn't made you happy. In this ambitious and balanced working mom community that you are a part of, just because you listen to this podcast, right? And hopefully you'll join one of the future cohorts coming up. We are about success and happiness. You cannot experience work-life balance without both. You have to feel successful at what you do and like your work matters and like you're making an impact, that you're valuable to your company. And you have to feel like life isn't always about work. Like, there is fun and there is giggles and there is smiles and rest, and that there is time when you are literally not working. In order to feel balanced, you have to have both. And in order to create that reality where both success and happiness coexist in your life, in order to do that, you cannot be consistently criticizing and berating yourself internally. Your internal dialogue needs to be kinder. It needs to be supportive, which means you have to drop the story that the negative self-talk or the self-criticism, that internal dialogue, has been what has made you successful. Because the reality is, you would have likely been even more successful if you didn't have that negative self-talk whipping you all of the time. And here's why. I'm going to give you 4 reasons why that's true. Your negative self-talk has not made you successful because your best ideas don't come when you're feeling bad about yourself. Your best ideas that are connected to vision and purpose and values and goals, they don't come under pressure and force. They just don't, because your fight or flight brain can't connect to the greater vision, purpose, values, and goals, right? It can only see what's there in front of you. So while you do have ideas under pressure and under force, like you can come up with ideas, you can move yourself into action, they're not the best ones. The best ones that are truly connected to the bigger vision and the bigger goals, they come when you're feeling amazing about yourself, when you're feeling like you are such a confident decision maker and ideator and have so much to offer. That is when those best ideas come. The second reason why negative self talk has not actually made you successful and you need to drop that story is because when you feel confident and successful and self assured, you actually perform at your best, right? I want you to think about going into an upcoming meeting that you have right now, feeling so underprepared, feeling like you're not sure why you're even in this meeting, if you have anything to offer, what people are going to think about you, and you have all this kind of internal negative chatter. You come into that meeting, do you operate at your best? Do you perform at your best? Do you give the best ideas? Do you even raise your hand in those meetings? Versus meetings that you walk in for and you're like, I got this. I know exactly what I'm going to talk about. I feel prepared. I'm the right person to deliver this information. I know I'm going to contribute to this conversation. When you have that internal dialogue going into the meeting, of course, you're going to raise your hand more and you're going to share more and you're going to contribute more, right? When you feel confident and successful and self assured, you perform better. You perform at your best. The third reason why we got to drop this story that negative self talk has made you successful is because a large part of success is, in fact, happiness, right? If you have been successful and you don't feel happy while achieving, because your internal negative self-talk is kind of berating you all the time, it is hard to even label that as being success, right? Because if you aren't happy, what's the point? Achievement for achievement's sake without any kind of joy and happiness, why bother, right? The last reason why your negative self-talk and that story that has been some sort of driver toward your success needs to be dropped is because you would never want your daughter or your son or any of your children to ever talk to themselves in that same way. You would never tell them that their external success is worth the internal berating. I know you wouldn't. You wouldn't want them to experience that same internal dialogue that you experience. That isn't going to make them successful. And you would never tell them to motivate themselves through negative self-talk. Then you yourself don't need to be motivated by it either. So now here's the big question. Hopefully at this point, I've painted enough of a story about how negative self-talk is often a driver, or women have internalized it as being a driver towards success. And we've debunked the idea that this story has even made you successful. In fact, I would argue, and I'm not going to get into it right now, but I would argue that it probably has held you back in your success. And I just gave you 4 reasons. So hopefully you're on board with that, because here's the thing. And here's the very next question I ask clients when I have this conversation with them. I'll ask them this. I'll say, okay, what would happen if you dropped this story right now? If we just dropped the story and you no longer needed that negative self-talk, you never had it as a driver within you. For my clients, when I ask them this question, they literally freeze. They freeze in fear. And my hunch is you probably did the same thing, right? The fear is that if you drop the negative self-talk and the internal dialogue of self-criticism, what's going to happen is you're going to fail. You're going to become lazy. You're going to become complacent. Whew, for ambitious people, complacency and sort of settling is one of the biggest fears, right? You're going to not be as relevant. I know that that's the fear, but the reality is negative self-talk is actually only one of the many drivers you have that like push you into action, right? Because that's really what we're saying negative self-talk has become. It's become a driver. It's become a mechanism. It's become sort of like a push forward toward achievement and toward success, right? But it's only one of many mechanisms that you have at your disposal in order to move you into action, right? It just seems to have become the go-to one because your brain has connected success with it. But if we drop the story that you no longer need the internal self-talk in order to be just as successful as you are today. In fact, if you dropped it, I bet you'd be even more successful. You would have to start drawing on other mechanisms in order to continue to achieve and be productive at the level you are today. So let's talk about a couple of these right now. And this was, in fact, exactly where I took this conversation with the ambitious and balanced cohort. I said, all right, let's talk about other drivers of success. Let's talk about other mechanisms that push you forward. What are they? We came up with 5. Let's go over them real fast. The first one is urgency. That's the one that we commonly probably all know. If you're a procrastinator, for sure you know this one because it literally jumps you into action, right? Urgency isn't just about a deadline, though. If there is a deadline, of course, that's going to get you moving real fast, but we can actually create urgency as well, right? We can create urgency when something feels important to us, when something feels purposeful to us, right? When something feels important to you, it creates this natural motivation towards it, right? Wanting to be a good manager, wanting to be successful, wanting to make sure your kids never struggle in the same way you do, wanting to see your direct report excel in their career, caring about excellence, caring about your whole team and moving your whole team forward. There are so many things, so many purposeful things that are motivating to you in your job that aren't related to negative self-talk. And when something feels purposeful to you, you are much more likely to take action, right? So urgency as a motivator forward, that's like deadlines. Procrastinators use it all the time. But another driver that moves you forward is purpose, when something feels really important to you. A third mechanism of moving you forward is a pain point, right? So even if there's no deadline to lose 20 pounds today, right? If you wake up every day not feeling great in your clothes and looking at yourself in the mirror and not loving the way you look, that's going to create that pain is going to create natural motivation, right? It's one of the reasons why we teach our kids we don't try to coddle our kids away from all pain and all discomfort. We actually want them to experience a little bit of that because there's a lot of life lessons involved in that. There's a lot of natural understanding and a motivation that is built through that little bit of pain. Another natural motivator forward, and this is probably my favorite one, is fun. When something feels fun, you literally feel more naturally motivated to accomplish it, right? You're drawn towards it. You want to make it happen. This is why I love to put on like dance party music with my kids when we're doing chores around the house because it is just simply more fun and we all feel more motivated to get our chores done when we're dancing while we're doing it, right? Or my daughter sometimes in the morning, she's like, I'll race you to get ready today, Mom. I'll race you. and and I understand why. It's more fun to race someone in getting ready to see who's going to win. And it brings natural motivation for her to like get through all of her things that she's got to do in the morning, right? And then of course it makes you laugh. It makes you smile. It creates dopamine in your body. And that's that little natural motivator that your body produces in order to help you like stay motivated and stay focused. At work, when you're laughing and smiling and enjoying your colleagues and the work that you're doing, you're way more naturally inclined to want to achieve, right? The last one I want to offer to you are goals. Goals are a natural motivator. Having a very clear sense of direction and exactly what you want to achieve in a goal and why it matters to you, like having that end destination in mind is really motivating to your brain, right? Closing a big deal, getting a new client, reaching a milestone, getting promoted, right? When your brain knows what the destination is, why it matters, the positive impact it's going to have on your life, it's going to naturally motivate you to want to accomplish that, right? All these different ways that you move into action, none of which are internally berating yourself through self criticism and negative self talk. How about for you? Which one of these is a natural motivator that you can start to utilize, lean in on, because I know you already do it, lean in on and kind of get out of this story that you need negative self-talk in order to be successful. My friends, working moms, amazing, amazing women out there. It is time to stop telling yourself the story that your success in your job and in your life has come through internal self-criticism and negative self-talk. It's time to drop that story. You no longer have to live in that story. Because the reality is, it's likely actually held you back from the things that really matter. Happiness, joy, presence, connection, all the things you really want in an ambitious and balanced life. If this feels like an identity shift to you, like you don't really know where to start because your internal dialogue has felt so weighty, so heavy, so negative for so long, that is where coaching comes in. Over the course of 6 months of you and me working one on one together, I will help you identify who you really are, what makes you amazing at your job, what makes you unique as an individual, as a human being. And we're going to turn those negative stories right side up, if you will. You are going to stop feeling like an imposter. You are going to stop feeling like you need to prove yourself to everyone. You are just going to own the amazingness and the uniqueness of who you are. In less than 6 months, we're going to turn all of that around. You're going to know why you matter. You're going to have language to describe what makes you unique and special. And you're going to wake up feeling infinitely more confident and assured of yourself each and every day. If this resonates with you and you're ready to shift this internal dialogue once and for all, I would love to connect with you on a free breakthrough call to talk to you about getting out of this negative self-talk, out of this imposter syndrome, and out of this constant need to prove yourself. It's going to change everything. If you're ready to do that, you can simply go to www.rebeccaolsoncoaching.com/book. And that's going to take you directly to my calendar where you and I can have a conversation around exactly what it looks like for you to shift everything that's going on internally. And I promise it's going to make all of the external change almost instantaneously. I got you. I can't wait to speak with you. Working moms, let's end the self-criticism. Let's get out of the negative self-talk, the lack of belief in self that has been bringing you down. You don't deserve that. You're not worthy of it. You don't have to tell yourself that story anymore. You can be infinitely more successful without it. I know it. All right. Until next time, working moms, let's get to it. The next step to getting unstuck and having more days where you bounce out of bed feeling certain that you're doing exactly what you want to be doing, regaining your confidence, ending all of that negative chatter in your head, is to book a free breakthrough call. This is a strategy call where I will guide you through setting a vision for the life that you want to lead as a working mom, and then I'll lay out a plan for exactly how we will achieve that together through one-on-one coaching. You can book that call by going to RebeccaOlsonCoaching.com/book. All right, working moms, let's get to it.